Recording is in progress. Fantastic. So we'll just do that. Fantastic. So welcome to Allocation Basics. We'll see how we go today. I feel like we could get through all of this and a little bit more with these more group sessions. So today we'll be going through the basics on entering in a shift. So you've got obviously an introduction to me and Amy, which you've already had in the last sessions, but we'll be going through the basics of creating and editing single shifts in our allocations module of the system. Then we'll be going through some recommended searches and the availability and how that flows through the system and the members' apps. We'll be going through some key features around, how best to use the system to find the right staff for the right locations, as well as potentially today we'll get into the app and we'll have a look at what that looks like in the app as well. And then we'll just have a few sort of scenarios that we play through the system by the end. So again, if anyone does have any questions, did just put it in the chat, but Amy's going to be our chat queen there. So she can answer any questions you have, and I can go through them in detail more if required. So we'll just jump into the system now, and I'll just begin. So we've gone through and we've done the recruitment side of things, so you should all know how to access the system. From here, we have two ways that you can access the allocations area. So what we do have is we have your allocations like quick access, or you can access this from the allocation drop down, selecting client allocations. So this is what the allocation screen looks like. So if I just select this, it loads exactly the same screen. And from here, we do have quite a few different display features that I'll just roughly or briefly even go through now. So we do have that quick access menu again, and then we start to see, this colorful rainbow of icons, which is our toolbar menu. And then from there, we actually get shift information that drops down here. Now, I'm not sure, Amy, sorry, can you confirm, did we share the instructions pre this training with everyone with the video, or should I go through those details as well?
We did.
We did, fantastic. Yes. So everyone should have watched our short 3-minute video on the main features of the allocation screen. However, we'll go through a little bit of it today anyway. So the first thing that we'll be doing is we'll be creating a shift. And to do that, we have this icon here called single. So what we'll be doing for this session is we're going to focus on entering in standalone shifts or single shifts. And then depending on time, we might be able to get to the multi-booking screen as well. So to enter in a single shift, when you select that icon, we do get a pop-up screen that appears. From here, you can search through your service location. So there's your client names. Now, the key thing that's awesome here is that you can start to put in key details or characters of a client name, and it will reduce the list. So in this case, I can start using my keyboard and go down to whatever client it is that I'd like to choose. In this case, I might choose Venture ABS. And one of the key features for quick booking is the fact that you can use the tab or the single booking. So here I can press tab across and it will take me to the next screen. So this screen is designed for quick entry. So again, you can just use your keyboard by pressing tab and go to the next field. So here we can just type in EN and go to the next field. Oh, sorry, that was me. So EN and press enter, and then we can choose. So far I've gone through the service location, which is the client location. If we did have a delivery location within that client location, so a delivery is a sub area of the main client, then we can also add it. It does need to be added into the client profile. So with your client systems that you're setting up now, you may have certain clients where that's applicable and some where a delivery location is not needed. My best example I have with that is if I owned a McDonald's store, McDonald's store Simone Inc. And the deliveries would be the drive-through or the McCafe or the Fryers. So that's the best way that everyone knows what a McDonald's is. Here we then have your qualification. So the qualification, you can choose one or you can choose that you can select this option here and have that you select multiple. So in this case, we've just got some examples here. So I might put that enrolled nurse or registered nurse is okay for this booking. And then we get a list of expertise that are set up to be linked to that qualification. So in this case, the aged care, bowel care, catheter, dementia, and palliative are only linked to EN and RN. If I had an assistant in nursing, you might not see, say, the catheter being available there. Then we go to your date and day. So this is an awesome feature where you can choose either the day of the week. Let's just say a client needs someone for Friday, and I can just put in FRI and press tab, or I can choose that it is the 17th and press tab. So that feature does work quite well. Now, if it is coming up to the cross of the month, all you have to do in this case, let's just say it was for November, you would just make sure that you put in 01/12 to do the 1st of December in that scenario. If I select 01, it always does say the current month. So if I am putting in the 24th, it's the current month. If I'm putting in the 10th, it's always the current month. So for me to get the next month, I do have to put in this case, it's hard for training, but I've got to do the year as well so that I get that future date. We then have your shift type. So the shift type in allocations drives your availability searches for your members. So while you might have for finance purposes that a 5 a.m. shift is a different rate of pay, here you are still to put like an AM shift. And I'll remind you, if you do have any questions, please feel free to bug Amy with those. But here what we have is we've got AM, which is considered your morning shifts, PM, which is considered your afternoon shifts, NS, which is your night shifts. And sometimes certain clients will also require what's known as the SO, sleepover. And that is something that you can put in as a custom shift type information. So on our app that we'll get to play with a little bit later, it is that we have the 3 categories of morning, afternoon, and night for your members to say if they could work that time frame. So here I'm just going to choose AM, and you'll notice that their shift start and end time has loaded. That is preloaded from a system master. So if I choose PM, it'll have a pre-time that it is preloads, and you can set them up per client or just have a default across your system. So we then have your professional, which is, okay, sorry, Amy's just giving me an update that everyone's been provided new logins for today's chat. So everyone won't get kicked out, which is great to hear. So we then have your professional. So the professional is the key contact at that location that is putting in the booking request. So in this case, if I was speaking to whoever it was at Venture ABS, let's just say it's Amy, I need to put Amy's name here as the reference to who I received the booking request from. I'm going to put Amy's name. Now you have the ability to set up your professionals in the system, so the list preloads. But if that professional's name is not set up yet in the system, you can just retype this field. Now I'll highlight that because if it is later down the track, a lot of people don't know that they can free type in this field. So I'll just make that very clear. Sorry, do you mind just, I'm just gonna request you mute. Perfect. We then have the order number. So in certain cases, if you do require an order number to show on invoices, you can have this set to be mandatory. Otherwise, it is just an additional field you can add data to. Order number, like I said, it can show on invoices if you've got the finance side of the application as well. We then have your booking notes. So the booking notes is a feature that can be for internal use. It can be for showing to your clients or showing to your members or both. So in this case, an example of a booking note, it is specific to that shift. So when we're looking at, say, a client that wants everyone to have, proper uniform when they attend, you wouldn't add that as a booking note. Here, a booking note might be that the client has requested, say, a female staff member, or that this is a transport shift or something like that. So the booking note can be for your members to know that they must report to Rebecca when they go on site for today. If you have any questions, please make sure you shoot those through to Amy. And then the next one we have is appoint member. So at the time of entering in a booking, you can choose to nominate a member straight off the bat. So with this appoint member, it does override some of the key system checks that we have in this to ensure that only the right staff go to your shifts. So one of those is qualification. So while you're starting out, I would only use this feature to mirror your current bookings that you have. For any new client requests, it's always best to use our system searches, which I'll show you today. So here, when we go to appoint member, we can actually choose to put in a person and we can offer them the shift. Now we can choose that this is assigned, accepted, client confirmed, or booked. And what that is it's just us being able to choose where the shift sits when we look at that life cycle. Now, if you haven't watched that video that was sent prior to today's training, please do, because it does go through the life cycle as an overview. So here, what I could do is I could choose to assign Amy. And what that does is it puts it in a particular section that it requires Amy to either accept or decline, so respond. And then it's also that we need to confirm back to the client that this person's attending. Now, in the scenario that it might have been that the member had contacted us, we could put it as member accepted because she's already called me back to say that she can do the shift. Or let's just say the client has spoken to Amy and over the phone they said, yeah, we did speak to Amy and she said that she would do it. But for your internal processes, you want to make sure that you actually get that acceptance from the member. You can do what the client confirmed option. So that is essential, that they're essentially saying that the client has confirmed, and we've got one more step, which is the member to accept. And then your booked option, which is all parties agree it's going ahead unless advised otherwise. So what that means is when we're looking at the life cycle, a shift booked will stay as shift booked until it is that the member submits a timesheet, or unless the client calls up to cancel or the member calls up and says that they can't attend. So we'll get to learn all of that today. So the other things that we can see here is you do have the ability to control the pay level at a shift. Now, most healthcare clients, this is not a requirement. So the pay level here, you can just ignore. If it is that you want to control it at a shift level, it is available here. And the sleepover passive shift, this is something that the shift type is sort of overriding, so you don't need to use that feature. It's more of an older feature that's getting phased out. We then have here this section here for important allocation notes and below. These are all of those client location notes. So with that, anything that is set to be important for your team to know about providing staff to this location will preload here. Anything that is specific to the location or the delivery will appear here, and that is member and internal staff facing. We then have transport, entry, and capacity. So these are three other sort of sub areas of notes that will display on the app, and we'll go through where they display today. But they are just in a different area of the app as more of an FYI, not a must read. We then have, once we've got all of the key details in the system, the option to confirm an exit or confirm and release. The difference between these two is confirm and exit just enters the shift into the system, whereas confirm and release will enter it into the system, but it'll actually post it on the app for all of the members that are matching the criteria. So we will cover that in a little bit more detail once we get you all on the app and logged in. But the idea is that as long as a member is matching that criteria, they'll see the shift and they'll be able to accept it if it's being released. And again, if you have any questions, make sure that you keep Amy busy because I know that the released is a bit of a interesting feature. So for me to enter this shift in, let's just say that Venture ABS, we already have that we are putting it in against Amy. So if I press assigned here for Amy and press confirm and exit, it will enter this shift into the system. Now, if I repeat that same behavior, but change it slightly, so let's just say I change the client, we'll put in an EN, we'll put it for the 17th, for a PM, professional is Simone this time round, or Simon, let's do Simon. No order number, booking number is, booking note, sorry, is Simone is our best. Very bad example of a booking note. A better one might be ensure to report to back reception. And we will tick that to show to member. I'm not going to appoint a member, but I am going to confirm and exit. Now, there are some mandatory details that you do need to enter into here to enter a shift into the system. If you try and enter a shift without that, you will get a little red asterisk appear for any field or anything that is mandatory that has not had a data applied to it. So in this case, I'm going to put Simon's name back in here and I'm going to confirm and exit. So now we can see that we've got some shifts in the system. So we have a shift entered and now one member assigned. So I'm just going to put in one more. And that shift is going to be for 18. And then so the shifts that I've put into the system that we have here, you'll start to see that they are displaying with different sections. So we will go into that into more detail, but I wanted to just go over where we could, the next step of editing a shift. So in the case that we've got a shift in the system, but we've just realized we've accidentally put the wrong date or the time, you can edit a shift. Now, part of that process is like a feature of the system, which is locking a shift. So when we lock a shift, what it does is it stops any other users from being able to update or action an item that you're working on. So it reduces double handling as well as, say, a member does accept online and you found someone over the phone. So when you lock a shift, it means no internal users or members can accept that shift or take action on that shift. And it is important that you do unlock once you have done the work or update that you needed to. So to lock a shift, we do have directly next to this lock icon, there is a tick box. Now the tick box, when you do tick a shift, it does have that the icon is locked. Now when I go up to or complete a certain action, if another user jumps in the system, they'll be able to see that I'm locked into this shift. So we will, once we get everyone logged into the system to practice scheduling the shift, we will go through and you can see others being locked into a shift there as well. So I'll just quickly show you the edit shift feature and then we'll jump in and get everyone accessing the system and creating a shift. So to edit a shift, you first lock the shift, then go up to the top section here. So the toolbar provides like action items, and one of them is to edit a single shift or multiple. So if I press edit single shift, we have your edit screen appear. Now the key thing to note with any shift that you enter into the system, one, there is no way to delete a shift. If you make an error, there is an option to do to make it a shift error in the system. However, any other details you can edit outside of the client location. So here, if I realize that it was a different qualification, I accidentally put EN, but the client needed registered nurse, I can change that from EN to RN, as well as I could change the shift date, shift type, start time or end. So I might change that to 17:30. Now we do work on a 24-hour time within the system. So if you're not used to that, unfortunately you have to get updated with 24-hour time. And the reason is it's just to provide clarity with all users that there's no double up errors there when it comes to the time zones or time, you know, PM, AM. So once we have updated all of the changes we need to, we can press confirm. And then we'll have that shift has been updated to the changes that I made. So we'll put a pause now and we'll just get everyone into the system. And then I'm going to step you through just a process to update your filters to make sure you can see the screen as I can see it. And then we'll go through and walk through that creating of a shift process. So what I'll do is I'll just pause my share now. And Amy, did you want to, if everyone can just log into the system, if you have any issues, please just shout out to Amy. And then we will sort of jump into if everyone can just do a thumbs up once they've logged into the system and navigated to the allocation screen. And I realize I didn't pause my screen share, I stopped it completely. Share there and pause share. There we go. So once everyone's logged in, if you don't have that URL, Amy will share it. All right. So if everyone can just do a reaction for me with a thumbs up once they have logged in, I'll go through the creating a single shift process one more time so that anyone can follow, and then we'll go through the next step of the training. All right, so I've got a few thumbs up, fantastic. So I'll just resume my screen share. So here, if everyone can navigate to the allocation screen, from there, I'd like you to access the single booking icon. And I'd like you to start from the top left. Now, it's important that you do this like you're reading a book from the top left across to the right and then down. So please note that the delivery location, expertise are optional, along with a few of the bottom settings here. You don't have to put in a delivery location. So if you find a service location that doesn't have a delivery, like this one here, you can just go to the next field. It is an optional setting or field there. So once you have entered in a shift for me, I will be keeping track of the screen. You can play around with expertise to have a look at what that looks like. Just make sure that you're putting in that the shift is for a future date for me. Please don't put anything for the past date. And you can choose different shift types. And for the professional, I want you to think of a family member's name. I just want it to be very clear that everyone's not thinking it's someone that's an internal team member. So this is the key contact at your client location. So in this case, your key contact from Entire is Amy or myself. So just making sure you're very clear that you put in that this is, for example, I'm going to put Santa Claus because he needs a staff member. Now, please don't appoint anyone. If you have, that's okay. We will get to sort of playing around with the appoint in a little bit more. So once you've entered the shift details at the top, press confirm and exit. If you have appointed a member, just press assigned for me. It will be good practice when we look at the app, and then just press confirm and exit for me. Now, when you do that and you enter in shifts, what will happen is the screen will automatically load when you do have that you have entered a new shift or you've edited something and made changes. So each time I press refresh, I'll start to see more data, but most of the time you don't have to be sitting here pressing refresh, because certain actions that you take will make that automatically upload or update for you. So once everyone's put in some shifts, so I can see we've got one here as a shift entered. I'm just going to, and we've got here professional Amy. Fantastic. All right. So once you've got a shift entered, I would like everyone to practice locking it. So if everyone can lock a shift that's available there for me. So I've got one here. So training G is on it. And then we've got someone up here, training A, fantastic. So I want you to hover your mouse over one of the other padlocks. Now, if it is that there's some other there's only one padlock and that's yours, that's showing in red, just press this refresh icon here, and that will give you an updated view of your allocation screen. So if you just press that refresh, and then you can see if you have that you've got a shift that you've locked into. So again, to lock into a shift, it's just pressing this tick box icon here. Once you've done that, it means that no one else can actually action anything. So if you try to hover your mouse over one of those lock shifts, you'll see that it actually tells you the user's name. Now, in this case, it's training A and training B, but it will probably be obviously your internal team members. And if they are notoriously locking shifts and not exiting them, you can start a bit of a strike. 3 strikes and you're out now. It's more of a, you get to yell at them. So once you've done that, I'd like to show you that you do have an option of pressing the unlock button. So you can select and unselect your options. However, you can also press this unlock button and it will just pretty much any shifts that you're locked into will be removed. So it looks like everyone's been able to navigate and complete that, which is fantastic. Now what I'd like everyone to do is open up your filter icon in the top left here. So the filter icon applies a filter to your allocation screen. What I mean by that is we have, obviously, as soon as you start to use your system, you have there's shifts in the past that are there. So we don't need to load our past shifts because they pretty much should have occurred. Otherwise, you would have been notified that a member didn't attend. So in this case, what we have is the first option is to do by period, and that is to apply your date range that you would like to view. So for most clients, today and future is what they do majority of their allocations in, because it's providing you any shifts for today and the future. If it is that you need to check or you need to run a report on, say, last month and just quickly have a look at those shifts, you have all of these different options, or you have the custom field here. So let's say things are getting pretty hectic and you just want to focus on today's shifts. You can use the today option, or if you wanted to focus on the next 3 days, you can choose a custom date range here. So if I did from the 14th to say the 18th, I would only see those shifts. Now, it's important to remember that if you apply a filter, it will stay set even if you log out and log into the system. So it's really important if you are providing a custom date range that you remember, only because you'll log into the system and wonder why you're not seeing any new shifts. It happened to me on the regular. So then what we do have is on the top right corner here, we have some other settings. So we'll come down to these in just a moment. When you get to your system and you log in as your user for the system, I want to just make this, and Amy, do you want to just note this down as a task we'll send to the team? That we put that the top one is set to yes, the middle one is set to no, and the last one is set to yes. So the top and bottom feature, they do have a color code. They open up a feature for you can see a different color if an action's occurred. And this middle one, we'll get to that when we get to system searches. There's just a change with the distance calculations, which we'll come to. Now, all of these other features here allow you to filter your data set down. What I mean by that is, if we just had this set to custom, it will just give us everything. But if you have that you wanted to work on a certain member and have a look at their shifts, you can filter it down. Or we have some filters in the main allocation screen that I'll cover. So before we exit out of this, there is one step you must do, which is setting your availability to both. And this is just a requirement for us to save our settings. So here we just want to change the date range to today and future. We want to make sure that this is yes, no, yes, and we want to save both. And that will stay saved until you go and update it again. And Amy has put in a very key point here, is that this is just for your allocation purposes, these filters. We have quite an extensive range of reports if you do need to export data to Excel or have a look at other areas there. So this is more just your action screen rather than looking at history or reporting. So once we've done that, what we also have is that any column that you see this like a white box and a filter icon next to, you can run a filter against the data that is set to show here. So earlier when I explained that you could filter by member in the main filter, you can also do this through the quick filter as well. So if I just put in AIM and press enter, it's going to show me only results that have Amy's name against. Now I can just quickly choose to turn that filter off using this icon here. So sometimes that can be very helpful if a client has that they've got someone coming for today, but they can't remember the name. You can search by the client location name. Now, again, if you do have any questions or anything like that, please shout out to Amy, and I will probably forget to remind you guys that she's here to help where I drop the ball. No, she's here to help with any of those more in-depth questions there. So once you have done entering in your single booking, we do have some details or fields across here that are the main fields that you'll be using on a day in, day out basis. So what we have, the first two are just meters, so they time between either when a shift was entered or when it was last actioned. We then have the shift status note. So this one's important. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get everyone to lock a shift. And what I'd like you to do is once you lock a shift, you'll be able to see that it opens up a white box. Now, these notes are great to provide like a running sort of breakdown or progress notes against that shift. So for example, and how we used to use this, because I am a previous allocation consultant, is that we would put in shorthand. So in this case, BC was broadcast, and then we would say to people with known availability. So that is just a shorthand there. So once you've gone in and added notes, what we can do is we can press this icon up here, and that will save that shift status note. So another example of how this could be used, and one that is definitely in the healthcare sector, is a name change required, because there's always a time where someone has to have their name changed because they pulled out. So once you've done that, press the blue note to save that. So if anyone can lock their shift, open up the notes, and then log that change. So putting in any reference or character you'd like. And I'll just wait for a few people to practice that. So just locking the shift, adding in a note. So in this case, it might be client has requested been before member. And that just means someone that has been to that location before. So if everyone can just practice those notes. Now, moving on to the next one, we have that this is our shift status. So the shift status is, it helps us to identify again where a shift is sitting in the life cycle. So in this case, we've got some shift entered and releases in our process section. And the process section is kind of where the shifts begin in their life cycle. So whether it is that a shift was previously booked and someone has cancelled and it's back to square one, it's essentially where we've got to find someone for this staffing request. We then have the hold section, and the hold section is that we have that we're holding a shift for a single member or for multiple. So in this case, we have Amy sitting here in against two shifts, but we might also have that Amy has, that we've offered a shift to Amy and to Bob, and it's a first in best dress scenario. So if Amy gets to the app and accepts the shift first, it's hers, or Bob if he gets to the app quicker than Amy. So we will be jumping in and doing a little bit more around that. And we then have the next section is if a member was to say accept a shift. So that status that we had when we entered in the shift, it would show at the top here in the finalize section. So we will go through that once we get to that section. So before I do that, just again, if anyone has any questions, please shout out to Amy. Otherwise, I'll move on to the next section there. So I'm just double checking. Okay, yeah, all right. So we've gone through and we've edited a single shift. Now we're up to sort of, we've had a client submit a staffing request, and now we need to try and find a suitable staff member. So what we do have is we have a whole range of system searches. However, as you're starting out, there's going to be two main searches that you use. So one of them is our standard search. And to complete a standard search, you can choose the shift that you would like to work on. Press this icon here, which is a magnifying glass, and it will open up a system search. Now a standard search. Now a standard search works on members having availability in their system. So for us to jump into the next set of this training, I think we need to get some members in with availability. So what we might do, Amy, if you can share the member login details with everyone, I'll just go through the other search option, and then we should hopefully be able to get in some availability by then. Thank you. So the standard search does, thanks. So the standard search, again, works on members that have themselves down as available. But until you have your app rolled out to your members and that they are actively updating their availability, which is normally sort of like a small period to educate them, we have the other search option, which is our unknown availability search. So to carry out or have access to all of the other search options, we right click on a shift. And then if we have a look, while we've got all of these options, one of them is search. And from here, we have all of these different options, but the key one I want you guys to use when you first roll over is your availability unknown. This will provide you with any members that are matching the same office as the client, that have the same qualification, but they do not have any availability in the system. So if I select availability unknown, we will get a list of no members here, and I'm hoping that our test system has some members. Okay, so we do have, and Amy's just shared that client information in the chat for everyone, guys. So to download that iOS or Android app, and the company code is DMH. Now I'm just going to cheat here, and I'm going to edit this shift and add in all of the qualifications so I can get some more members to appear. So again, I'm right-hand clicking on that shift, and I'm going down to search and down to availability unknown. Now from here, I should have a larger list of people other than just Amy. I'm not sure, Amy, if there's other members happening there. We might have to pause for a moment, I think. I'll just try this one. She's just checking now. I'm sorry, guys. I'll just check. Yeah. All right. So you'll probably face this with your system as well, just to begin with, until you've got all of your members in the system and they either have availability in, or they might need their profile updated to have the right qualifications. What it is for each client location here, if I open up a system search for a standard, I'll just open up this one again for Amy. I'll just do a standard search and see what comes up. We might have that they all have availability and I'm doing the wrong search. Nope, we've only got one. Okay, so we have Abby here. Now, any other members that are meeting the criteria that I had set in the shift, i.e. that they have the qualification, that they are in the office and they're down as available for this shift type, in a standard search would appear here. So right now, what we do have is Abby. Now, if I'm just waiting for some other members to appear there. We might just, okay. Sorry about this, everyone. I'm just going to quickly pause. I'm just going to add in a few things into the system. Sorry. So, okay, fantastic. So I've got Amy working hard in the background. So what we have here is I've just opened up another search, and we have where we've got 2 members now available or down. So what we have is that on a system search, it does provide a list of members matching that criteria. So if there are members in the system that don't have the qualification that's set in the shift type, they won't be appearing here. There are some other settings as well. If they are already booked at a shift for that date and time, they won't appear either because they're not available. But what essentially will happen is in a system search, you'll get a list of all of your members. So that's where we're struggling at the moment to try and get all of the demo or test members shown. But what will happen is that in this information, in the search, you do have access to quite a lot of information that helps you identify who is the best person for that shift or who might be able to get there the quickest. So what I'll do is I'll just go from left to right on all of these fields, and we will ensure that there is information provided on this as part of your training, like post-training package. So for the first 4 columns, what we actually have is we will see icons appear depending on if it's a request or a restriction for that member. So this may have been covered in your this may have been covered in your recruitment training, but one of the key features we have in the system is request and restrictions. And request and restrictions allow your members or your clients to restrict or request to either go to a location or be restricted from it. So in this case, what we can see for Abby is that we do have a service member request, which is that the member has said that they prefer to work at that location. Now, if I went in and I'm just setting up one for Brendan now, and I'm going to put that this is a client restriction for Catholic tenants. And what will happen is if I do an update in here, so let me just exit that. Sorry, guys. And he's disappeared because he's in a standard search. Okay. All right. Okay, we've got some more members. Amy, definitely have Amy working hard now. So what we have here is we've got the list has increased because Amy's been working hard in the background to put in some permanent availability, which I'll go through in the next part of the training. But these icons that will appear in the first 4 columns, they highlight if it is a request or a restriction from the member or the client. So in this case, it is green is go, so it's a request type, whereas black is no. If you're unsure, you can hover your mouse over it, which is what I've done here. So in this case, we've got client restriction, member unsuitable. So that you can add in a whole different range of reasons that meet your business needs there, but there are some preset ones available already in your system. From there, we have the next field of standby and double, and we will get to play with that in a moment once we jump into the app. but it is just a field for your members to actually highlight if they are definitely down as available and on standby, or that they are happy to do 2 shifts for that day. So that will appear in a solid color if that happens, and we'll get to play around with that once we get you all on the app and playing in the to update your availability. The other feature we have when it comes to availability is updating notes. So that'll be covered when we do that component. And then we have the type. So in this case, we have permanent, which is that Amy went in and quickly just updated their availability to be available ongoing. Or we have that it can be set to be a specific date and time. Again, we'll go through that in the next part of the training. This next column here allows us to get a distance calculation of your members that are closest to furthest from the client location when it comes to your suburbs. So this is a feature to help you automatically find out who's closest to furthest, but it's not a specific distance calculation. It works on the longitude to latitude for each suburb, i.e. if I lived in the same suburb as this client, i.e. Parramatta, it would show 0. But if I lived in the suburb just across, it might show 5 kilometres. And that will automatically, every single search will be automatically filtered on closest to furthest for your convenience. And then the next fields that we have here, or field, is these relate to the details on that date of the shift. If they have a shift before that day, so the day before, the day of, or the day after the shift date that you were looking at, being the 16th of the 12th. From there, we have all of your members' names, and anything that does highlight in a bright blue color has another feature to it. And this is in the same logic in your allocation screen as well. Anything that has that color has further information available if you select that. So we will come through and go through what that is, but in this stage, this one is just your member name. We then have the quick SMS feature, so you can SMS your members. Please note that's not to SMS them about this shift. It's more, let's just say you called them 3 times and they didn't answer. So the templates that appear here are not set for that shift type. They're more just in general nature for communicating to your members. We then have your gender. So we have a male, female, and if they have put that they don't want to be male or female, it will have the you for unidentified. We then have your office. So here I expanded this search to have all offices in the system. And what will happen by default, majority of your searches work on office first, and you can expand them up the top here. So again, this is just an overview, and I am going to get you all to go through here. Okay, so just bear with me. Amy has just letting me know that you guys are having some issues with accessing the app. So hopefully we can get that solved. We then have your priority for the clients, for the member. So what we actually have in the system is we can rank our members and our clients on a scale that is, you know, like awesome, excellent, very good, to all the way down to, you know, pulls out of shifts, is very unreliable. So the idea behind it is that your clients, you can have, you know, your top members, and you can prioritize them for your top clients. So depending on what your priority is as a business, it could be the margin for certain clients. It could be that, you know, you're trying to get in for a contract for that client. So that priority is quite high. So here is the member priority. So in this case, Sachin here has a very low priority, and I probably wouldn't place him for this shift unless it was in dire need. We then have your travel. So this is what at the application level or through your member import, it would have had your travel field. And that is if it's either via car or public transport. So if it's public transport, it will have the PUB. And then we have this HU, which is a history icon. So we'll jump into that in a moment. But the next thing we have is qualifications. So I can see that Amy's been working hard to put more qualifications in these profiles for us today, and your expertise. So the expertise, just covering that again, is a sub skill set of your main qualification that your client's asking for. So when we're looking at your healthcare sector, it can be where you manage your members' preferences, i.e. aged care or hospital, or it could be specific skills like your dementia or your peg feeding, or if your member, you want to search members that like to do those transport shifts. You can add that as an expertise and attach it to their profile, and you can always search on an expertise against a system search. We then have your availability and the suburb of the member. So that's the basic information that we can see on the top here. We also then have that there's further information on these hyperlinks. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to go through the main ones, which is your member name, and this is the member contact card. So we'll be playing a little bit with this today. This is just an overview of it. It has key information that is attached to the member's profile for notes. It has a section where you can add in details on what you've tried to contact them for the day. On the top right-hand corner, we have emergency contact details here and their contact details. And this bottom section, if you are working within a system search like we are right now, you can automatically log that you tried to, that you couldn't contact a member. You've left a message and this will automatically put in the note for you. So that one can be really handy if a client calls back. You can open up the member contact card and see exactly what that shift was in relation to. And there's some further details at the top here that we'll most likely cover in the next set of training. The key thing for this is we had your generic distance calculation from point to point. And what we actually do have is the specific distance calculation as if they're driving in a vehicle, if you press this get distance option. So in this case, it's showing 0 to 0. That is due to the Google API connection. So as part of your implementation, we do set up a Google integration, and that does require the account to be set up, and that's for the use of this API integration, because if you are using this, it is using an API request with that service. Further information on that is provided when you do get to that stage of your implementation. So the other details we will jump into in just a moment. Now, I will wait to hear if Amy's got any update on the app just yet. What we do have and what I'm going to jump into now is the availability. So the availability is the next part of the training until we can give you access to the app. So sorry about that. This is the first type of training on this system. So Amy's working on it. This is the latest system version. It has all of the bells and whistles that you're all getting. You're all very lucky to have the latest system version because it has some really cool features. So what we do have is your availability option. So I will go through some of these at another time, but the availability, if I select this, will take me to the members availability. So I'll just close out of this system search. Again, while Amy's working on that, if you do have any questions, you're more than welcome to shoot them through and I can answer while Amy's doing that. But there are some other features here that we will be covering in. Yes, I did have it easy. Making you work. So what we do have in the next part of the training is that we will be going through you using these system searches. So again, this is just an overview so that when we have your next training, we can go through this in more detail. So that's a system search for you. So the idea is if you do have a shift and you don't have the ability to have someone in it straight away, it is that what we can do is pretty much open up system searches, and there's quite a few, and we do have a knowledge article on, and it breaks down all of the different searches and what they provide. And then we also have your shift release. So until I can get you on the app, that one's a little bit trickier to explain. But essentially, the difference between the shift entered and the shift release is actually that these are only available for internal users to see. And what I mean by that is these shifts, only your internal users will be able to open up searches and look for stuff. It's not that it's available and anyone else can sort of see and work on it from the members, so they can't accept it. Whereas this one here, any members matching that criteria of being a registered nurse, they can see this shift on the app and they can accept it. So a shift release is a really good option if you have as soon as possible starts. Okay, so we're just going to see if we can get the app connected to this system. So that's a very good question. So we do have a shift start. We've got a question in the system regarding you showing a shift start without any end. Now that one is sort of tricky. Amy, can you just find out if that is sort of an open booking or if that is like just a single shift? So when we're looking at the shifts in the system, it is mandatory that you do have a start and an end time to it. Now, in the case that we have 24-hour shifts, or we have that there is, which does happen, or we have that there's sort of a shift end time that's open, it would be that you do have to put a time in the system, but you would use features like the booking notes so that you could inform your members that this, is open or that it's going to end on this date or time. So in that case, when we do look at booking in entering in a request, that's where those booking notes showing to members is really important, because they do see that on their app, and when they go to view their shift details, it does come up. What I might do, just gonna see. All right, I'm just trying to think of, okay, what I'll do is I'll go through, and I'm really sorry guys, oh yes, someone's just asked for me to repeat my explanation there. So when we're looking at shifts, if it is that there is technically no, or that the finish time is not really set in stone, or that it might, okay, for community runs, etc. Okay. All right, so in this case, when we're looking at start and end time for the community shifts, it does make it a little bit tricky. Now, what we do recommend is there are some newer features available that might help you with the task sheets and a few other things. But if it is that they're doing a run sheet where it's for a certain client and they're doing, say, 5 visits to residential homes, you would just enter in that the end time would roughly be this time. Now, when a member does come to their timesheet submission, that can change. So it's not set in stone that they must finish at 5 p.m. When it comes through to the timesheet submission, if it is different to the booking, your members just change what that time is that they finished, and they just put a note in the submission notes, and that will show through in finance. Or if you're not utilizing the finance just yet, even in the export that we have available for those clients, it does show the difference in the submission time to the booked time. So I hope that that has sort of answered the question, re the 24 hours. So sorry, the fluctuating end times. If not, more than happy if you want to write it down or provide specific examples, and then we can provide that to you in writing, just so that you've got a copy of that and it does meet your sort of question. Yeah, okay. So I'm really sorry, I'm just, okay, yes, we did have just a question come through, which is, can we do, a 7 a.m. to 0000? So you are able to do 0000 as a shift time from memory. Again, very specific example, so we'll just double check it while we're here. So if we go 0600 to 0000, now it could be potentially that you do, I'll just see if that works. Yeah, so you can do that. That is 07 to midnight. Otherwise, you can do sort of like a 2359. So depending on what you want, again, for those specific examples, your implementation consultant team can provide you, the best options around that, where we analyze a few other details there. But now the team is still working on the app. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go through some other features in this display, and I do thank you all for running with this very interesting training method due to sort of limitations there. So what we do have is
keeping it spicy and keeping you on your toes, Simone.
Oh, it's keeping me on my toes. Oh, wow. Is one of my key strengths. I did this personality test, and one of my key strengths is adaptability. So I've got working with it.
Wow.
So what we do have, I know I covered sort of the main details here, but I'll go into depth on all of these features just as a, not an in-depth, but just an overview. So this does have our shift status, which is the corresponding color code here, and you would have learned that from that video that we shared. However, if we select it, we also have an additional feature because it's that lovely blue text there. And that is that we can email our clients or we can email our members directly from this screen. So using the system email templates, I'm using Amy's example because I've got her email here. What we can actually do is we can use this, let's just say, and these email templates here, it might be the COVID questions. What we actually have is you can set up email templates for shifts where it's like, please ensure that you have read X, Y, and Z before attending the shift. You can also send sort of confirmations, rebookings. Some clients use that for the clients to sort of send. So for example, if we go clients, we could send the booking list. And here you could have that all of the details for any of the bookings would appear. And then you can send. So this is just a quick email to your clients or to your members, and you can change that email template if need as well. So when you do send an email, it does show, like, it changes color. Otherwise, we have your SMS as well. So if we are SMSing the member, we use the blue M&M. And if we are SMSing the client or professional, it is that we are using this icon over here. So if we open this up, we do have your system templates for allocations. So in this case, it would be if this person was being assigned a shift, we could use the assigned template. Your system does come with pre-option templates ready to go for allocations. And what it is you can choose to send this as an SMS or using that push notification. So once we get the green thumb, the tick of approval, it will be that you can log into the app and we can test the push notifications to ensure you're getting those. And so that's your SMS. Now you can use the templates or you can free text and type whatever message you would like there. Please note that the SMSs are a part of a credit system, whereas the push notifications are a part of the app, and there's no additional costs for that. So that I highly recommend adopting and using the push notifications as much as possible before. Okay, all right. So Amy's just give me an update. Hey, Amy, can we just quickly swap? I'm going to see if I can get my screen share on my phone to work. And if you could just go through the different screen options here. I'm just not sure. Oh.
Yeah, what screen options would you like me to go through?
Yeah, so I'm just up to the SMS. So if you just want to go through, that's the member contact card, which we've already covered, but just working from left and just going through any of the hyperlinks or the icons here.
Yeah.
And I will just quickly see if I can get my app screen share to work, and then I'll show you. So we've just had an update regarding that the app connection is not something that we can get happening straight away. So I'm just going to see if I can get an example set up for you. It's just going to take me some time. So I'll stop my share.
Can you make me host, please?
I can make you host.
Thank you.
I just have to remember how to find that.
That would be under participants. You select my name.
Make host. Okay.
Make you host. All right. 7. I am the captain now. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. All right. Perfect. So while Simone is working her adaptability magic, I'm going to go through the screening dashboard. So we've already come all the way across to mobile and member. Is that where we were? We also have the ability where we don't have a member in a shift that we can click on the magnifying search icon, and that will actually open up a standard search from this particular screen. I need to lock a shift. Oh, one of you guys is in it already. Locking. Clicking on that icon opens up a standard search. So as we were speaking before, the standard search is only going to return members that have listed their availability. If you have clients that haven't listed their availability, you'll need to do another search. So I know Simone may have touched on that, where we can do a number of other searches. So generally search, right clicking, coming down, and we've got availability unknown. So that's going to bring back anyone that hasn't provided any availability. Generally with the emails that we send out, it's one of the first tasks that we ask people to do once they've downloaded the app. So that's the search window there. We also have the profile icon, which is just an icon to identify. Obviously, a blank icon means that there's no one in the particular shift. And then we have a male or a female icon. The priority here, so we've already had a little bit of a chat about member priorities. So in this system, we have member priorities, which could be very, very high, all the way down to very low. So the lower that we are ranking a member is, they're our least desirable member that we'd like to send out to a client location. So that can be used to, in a member sense, to kind of gradually push people out or give them limited shifts in the system. What it means for clients is we can also give our clients a priority. I always have a bit of a joke that we should treat all of our clients the same. We value them all the same. But when it comes to allocating shifts, as you guys grow, or even with your existing clientele, there's usually one client that's like your bread and butter client, and they're always giving you guys shifts. And then there might be another client that you have that you've signed a contract for, but they're only really putting in a request once a week or once a month, quite ad hoc. So what we're looking to do here with priorities is we can assign those clients a priority, which is going to determine, which shift are we going to action first, which one has a bit more priority that my team want to try get a member into and book that shift away. So a high priority client would have a higher number, generally like a 5, and a lower might have a 1, or vice versa. But this is the client's priorities. This is used as a tool to say, okay, well, if I've got 10 shifts in here, what shifts do I really want to prioritize and get filled based on the client's priority? When you're starting out with limited clients and limited shifts, probably not too hard to manage, but as you can imagine as you grow and you have more clients across different offices, it's a really helpful tool. If you do have any questions on that, feel free to chat me. I am doing both chatting and chat box, so feel free to send through any questions if anyone's unclear on anything I'm going through. What we next have is Office. So we had a bit of a chat about Office in our recruitment training. So hopefully you guys remember what the Office is. The Office is that geographical, whether it's physical or non-physical, location that we're using to group our clients and our members. So this Office is giving us an indication of where this shift is assigned to. So in this system, we've got 2 offices. I've got Northern Sydney and I've also got Western Sydney. So offices, it could be all the same if you have one office, or it could be split across many. What we have further to the right is we have the padlock icon and the check mark. So with this, obviously Simone has covered this in great detail. Whenever we are working on a shift, we need to lock said shift. When I'm locking it, no one else can touch it, and that includes people on the app trying to pick up that shift. Oh, she's giving me a thumbs up. Are you happy for me to drive the ship across, or would you like to?
Yeah, so I'm happy for you to drive the shift across, and then I've got the app guide up. I've also got an app login to show from the beginning. So
5 stars for adaptability.
yeah.
All right. So we have locking the shift. Now, one thing I'll say about locking the shift is you need to remember religiously to unlock the shift. Whether it's at the end of your shift, before your lunch break, or maybe you're going to interview somebody, if you're in it, nothing else can happen to it. So it is a habit that you really need to form when you're moving into this system. Now, with locking the shift, we haven't worked on multi-bookings, but there is a way that you can lock multiple shifts as long as they are from the same location and they share the same shift status. So if you've booked 2 weeks worth of shifts, you can select them all together and you can edit them together or do an update as well. So we will cover that in part 2 of the training. What we also have is the information icon here. So when we click on this, this is where we can view the booking notes. We can also update the booking notes, and we can select to show it to the client or to have it also facing the member, and we can hit save. So that's a quick access area there. If we click on the service location, this hyperlink, this is actually going to bring up a client contact card. So we've already had a look at the member contact card. This is the client contact card. So depending on how far along you are in your implementation process, the word client tree should sound familiar, if not triggering for some of you. So what we have here is the service contact notes. So you might have particular notes on this client location. You can list a number of different contact details. So for example, you might have a primary, like an office number, that's the landline, but there might be an after hours mobile number for the facility manager. So if you can't get them during hours and it's, I don't know, 7 p.m. and you're desperate to fill a shift or something, you can have multiple numbers. You can also view the client tree in here, any professionals, the relationship manager, and you can add a log against them as well. So that's our client card. I feel like I'm doing the grand tour of the allocation screen. This is fun. All right, so then I've got our C buttons. This is where we can send an SMS from the system. You can obviously use the M icon, but you can also use the S icon. I generally navigate to the M icon because I think you've got a lot more functionality there.
That one's purely for contacting your clients, so professionals, yeah. and they do need to be set up in the system for it
as a professional with a mobile number. So if you've got a landline, it ain't gonna work.
So when you set up your professionals in the system, it will have them as an option to drop down. So when you, although we don't recommend using like sending confirmation SMSs to members, we know that certain clients do like that. So you can set them all up and use that to send them a confirmation message.
Yeah, fabulous. Thank you, Simone. I'm working through it. Delivery location. So I did overhear Simone touch on this before. If you have a delivery location, great. If you don't, it doesn't matter. You don't need to have one. If it doesn't have one, it's all good. So if you do have a delivery location, again, you can click on that hyperlink and that's going to display delivery location details. So why this could be important is you might have like instructions, you might have like parking and transportation notes or entry notes to that facility. That's important for the member to know, and they'll also have access to that on the app for any shifts that they pick up. We have the qualification field, which everyone knows what qualification is. I hope you do this far into the training. Then we've also got expertise as well that are in the shifts. We then have the start and the end date of the shifts. So as Simone said before, we always have a start and an end date for shifts in the system. We've got the day, we've got the shift type. So in this particular system, we have an AM shift, PM, night shift, and sleepover. Your system may be different depending on what you've worked out with your consultant. We've then got a start time and an end time. We've also got our professionals column as well. So that's the key contact at that organisation that has raised that initial order. So this could be a really good area of interest if you do open up the client contact card and you look for professionals to try find Santa's phone number or Simone's phone number. We also have a booking ratio here. So at the moment it's 1-on-1. So that's indicating that I have a standalone shift and it's just one shift on its own. If I was to do a multi-booking, which we will cover in part B of the training, you might book a, maybe Monday to Friday of shifts. So there's 5 shifts. So you'll have, shift 1 of 5, shift 2 of 5, Wednesday would be 3 of 5, Thursdays 4 of 5. We then have access to our logs in here. So we've got shift log. Hopefully it likes to load for me. I feel like I was definitely fire on the chat. There we go. So this is a chat log, sorry, a chat log. Wow, you can tell that it's getting late for me. I have not had coffee today, guys. So we've got shift log. This is giving you an update on what's happening in the shift. And then we open this one here. We've got a client log as well. So what's happening there with the client log. We've then got your R&R. So this is your requests and restrictions. We then have the order number, if you have populated an order number in the shift, and then tucked away in the far corner, there is a suburb if you wish to utilize that. So that is the grand tour. If anyone has any questions, please holler in the chat. I am going to go back to my chat realm and I'm going to let Simone take over. So there we go. I organize that. No, thank you.
Thank you. So I will, thank you very much for doing that, by the way. So I've got everything set up, ready to go. I'll share my screen now and we'll just jump back into. So from a sort of like an operational level, the shift log, I just want to touch base on these 3 again. The shift log is very handy for if a client does come back and say that you didn't call the name back. Or any of those scenarios where it's like, you want to check exactly what happened when against a shift. So pretty much every single action against a shift will log here. So for example, if you've offered a shift to 5 members and 3 of them decline it, it will show that you've contacted that member and it's they have declined here. So this one can be really helpful if you ever do need to find out what exactly happened to a shift and why the member didn't show or something like that. You can always check the log. The other one is the client log. This one is very handy if a client says, and it used to happen all the time, we want to know who the nurse was last Friday, they made an error, or we really liked them, we'd like them back. So you can run a date range and provide a search on past history worked for a client. The other thing here is it doesn't have to be that client that's against the shift. You can access any other client in the system to have a look at that history from, in the past and who it was or what member was there. And the request and restrictions, same thing. You can actually search any service location or delivery from here and find out any requests or restrictions that are in the system for that client. So those can just be really handy just in general. So I just highlight that there. So what I have got now is I have set up the app and I'm going to go through. So I've actually logged in as a member in another environment that we have, and we can see that I can't actually go any further because it's saying our work policy needs to be signed. So for all of your members that are your current members, when they do access the app, this is a required step. So as part of the implementation process, we normally recommend just, including in the email that launches it, just a copy of any of the policies that you've put there so that they've got time to read it prior to you sending out the details for them to access the app, and they can then just quickly sign them. So here, what we can do is the user just presses OK, and it actually directly takes the user to your workplace employment policies, where they can read and sign. So in this case, we can select that. We can select the policy here, read it, and then we can go up to this I agree, and then digitally sign on our phone and press confirm. So now that both of the policies are signed, it's not going to prompt me to sign anything else because we've got both green ticks, and we can jump back into the dashboard. So the dashboard, we can remind me later to do that too. So the dashboard here is your daily dashboard, and what will happen is if you do have any action required or any offers of shifts for that date, it will appear here. And if not, it'll just, there won't be anything like there is here. If a member would like to, they can always open up the next day. So again, it's a daily dashboard, but it doesn't stop them from checking other dates. So here, if it is that there was any shift information around a shift that I have for the day, it would appear here. Now, I have just quickly gone in and assigned a few shifts to Amy, so I'm hoping that they appear in my shifts. I just forgot to check shift date, so we'll see. So what we actually have outside of the dashboard is we have these 4 main areas that your members will use in the app. What we have is your availability, which we've touched on briefly. We have the 2 different options, which are your casual availability and your permanent. So Amy used permanent before, and on the app it's tucked away in a different area. So what we're looking at right now is casual availability. So here, if we select if we did have any availability entered into the system, it would appear on our load. So here I've actually been nominated for shifts. So while it's not that I have availability, it's also that I can't change my availability. So when we go to enter availability, so I'm just going to tick this option here, we have a list of all of the dates on the left, and we can choose if we want to be available for AM, PM or night. So in this case, I'm just going to do a few AM, PM nights like so. And as you can see, it's quite easy for your members to just quickly say when they can work. So in this case, anything that has the green tick is now down that I am available. Let's say I would like to change some of those. If I untick them like so, it will actually mark that as not available because I originally was unknown. I said that I was available and now I'm saying I'm not. So once I have set that, if I pressed save at the top right hand corner here, like so, you'll see that it now shows what I had set in that enter availability screen. Now, if I go jump back in, we have some other features that help your users to quickly update if they can or can't work for the day, as well as that standby, double and notes area. So if I select this X icon here, so if I just do a few of those, it automatically takes me off for the whole day. So that one is really handy because it's very quick and it just says note for the whole day, I'm not available. The other thing we have is your members can select the date here or these icons here, like so, and it does bring up the option to do a standby, a double shift, to say that they're not available all day, and to also do your notes. And we'll touch on this in a moment. So when we're looking at standby, they have to have an availability set to be on standby. So if I went down to one of these dates down here and I tried to press this icon, see how my standby is not available in my double? Because I don't have shift types that allow me to actually put that I can be on standby or that I'm happy to do 2 shift types of AM or PM. So when we do, let's just go back to this one here. I have both standby and double shift showing, so I can put myself on for those. Now, if I press that, it would take me off for the whole day. I'm not going to do that. We also then have your set possible availability. So this is AM, PM or night. And it means that your members can actually highlight if they, they're possibly available. Now, this feature can be really handy if, say, someone needs to know 2 weeks in advance. So they're going to put themselves down as possible. And then they can put in notes as to why. So in this case, require babysitter, please give as much notice. So your members can put whatever they would like here. Yeah, I actually got it all right. So that one really helps in the system searches, which we'll jump into in a moment. So I'm going to press done there, and we'll see that these icons are now highlighted that there's an entry against them. So that's how the availability works for your members to sort of edit and update. And then once they've done all of their changes, they just press save and they can view an overview of what they've got for the week ahead. We normally recommend sort of suggesting to your members to have 2 weeks in advance. So that's so we do have a question around weekends and public holidays. I'll jump into that in just a moment. So for this, just with the dates here, we normally recommend 2 weeks in advance, if not 3, just so it allows you, if you do have any of those more advanced shifts, you can, find stuff using the availability searches. Now, the question that we had that hit the chat was around weekends and public holidays. So when it comes to the availability, it is that they just put down the dates that they are happy to work. We do have, as part of the finance module, where you can define rates for weekends and public holidays. But here, for availability purposes, there's nothing that highlights in red or anything like that, that date is a public holiday. And that is just, there's all different changes when it comes to different areas as well. But also, you know, for example, Christmas coming up, although the public holidays are falling on the Saturday and Sunday, us lucky full-time workers get the Monday and the Tuesday off. So with that, it is something that isn't sort of set to show in availabilities. So I'm hoping I've answered that question. If not, just let me know in the chat there. So that's how you enter availability. So the next step is, like, you know, we do recommend just asking your members to do it on a weekly basis. And we have an available report that allows you to push out a reminder to all of your members too. So that one is sort of a recommended weekly process to do, just as a nice reminder to keep your members' availability up to date. We then have your My Shifts area. So the My Shifts area will display any shifts that you have currently set for today or future, as long as the end time is not. So if I had a shift for today, which I believe there was one in the system, if the finish time was for today at 1500, it's now 1530. So it won't appear in my Shifts area, but it'll appear in the timesheets area because the end time, the current time is greater than the end time. So up until that, it will appear here. And what will happen is we have the shifts, the shift days all along here. And if you do have an AM, a PM, or a night, it will show the details here. Now I have just got our app guide so I can show a better example of that. So if we have a look, what we have here under the app guide, and this can be provided in a Word document, so you can provide this to your own members in your own, format it with your own business logo and make changes to the wording. What we have here is we have the different options show depending on the action required from the member's side. So what we have, if we have member assigned, which is that we're assigning it just to Amy, it will show with a reply against it. Then we have your member broadcast. So a broadcast is slightly different because it does highlight that it's not exclusively to that person and it is a first investress situation. We then have your booked. Now we do have two. One of them is that it's member accepted, awaiting client confirmation. And then we have a green one, which is shift booked. Now, the thing to note here is when you're educating your members around this, if they accept a shift, it is on the understanding that they are proceeding or attending unless they get advised otherwise. So regardless of if this color is orange or green, it is that if they've accepted it, they've verbally accepted it, and it's showing here with the word book, then that means it's going ahead unless you advise otherwise. And then we have the last one here, which is acknowledge cancellation. So at times it is that clients will have that their own staff fill the shift and they need to cancel a booking. So anything that was previously accepted or like booked away for a member, if it does go to client cancelled, it does appear with the acknowledge cancellation so that your members know that they need to acknowledge that cancellation. So again, just a prompt, if you have any questions, please make sure that you keep Amy busy and go through that, any questions you have, or you can write them down on the completion of the training and send them through. So the next thing that we have is if I was to open up the shift details, I am going to do this live and show you it in the shift. So here, when we have a shift that we have, what I have here is that I've been assigned a shift and I can accept or reject it. So when I press accept, it will take this shift under the My Shifts area and change it to that orange book. But before that, I do that, I just want to show some details here. So it provides you with the shift date, time, qualification, and if there was a pay level assigned, it would show you the pay level. Otherwise, that'll just appear blank. We then have the client details. So in this case, what we have is the address details of that shift, along with the important member notes. So in cases where a booking note is applied, so for Monday, the 27th of December, I'm just going to pause my screen share. Pause my share. I'm just going to put in a booking note and refresh this. Bear with me. Okay, so I'll get that back up and refresh that. All right, resume share. So I've just added a booking note to this shift. So what will appear is in the important member notes, we do have anything that's set at the client location as being very important will appear, but we'll also have that the booking notes appear in brackets first. So in this case, I've just said, please take your yellow hat as a booking note, but you can put anything that is specific to that shift that they must read because it does display it prior to them accepting the shift. So in this case, we can accept. And what will happen is we'll get a warning message because this shift has one of our features, which is an infection control feature. So if it is that I accept this shift, it will be that there is a 48-hour window from after the end time of this shift where I'll actually be restricted from accepting a shift at another location. So that is a very strong healthcare feature, and it can be utilized for other infections as well. So I can press yes here. And then we have a rule around client compliances. So I'm not sure if any of you are looking at our client's compliance module, but this is an example of I'm not able to accept the shift until I meet those rules that are set in the system. So luckily for me, they are both a read and accept and a read and send information. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly pause that. I'll just quickly read and accept these. Yes, I agree. Read and send. Okay, upload an image. All right. So in this case, okay, fantastic. All right. Okay. So I'm just going to resume my share. So I've met both of those client compliance rules, and it now will allow me to accept the shift. Now, when we're looking at client compliances, you can have document checks. So for pretty much all of our clients that are utilizing this feature, the vaccination requirement is a document that's created and set for all locations. And what that means is if a member does not have that on their file, they cannot accept a shift that they're offered. So you can also have your clients say handbooks or anything like that as part of this client compliance that they must read and sign that they've read it. So in this case, I'm just going to press accept shift because I'm meeting that. And then I'm going to get another message because someone's locked into this shift, which is i.e. me from to updating that shift. So this is an example of that locked shift feature in that if you have an internal user that has gone on a coffee break and they have not unlocked a shift, you pretty much have to scream and shout at them to come back to their computer. You can't physically kick them out of a locked shift unless you log in as them, which is not recommended. So it is one of those things for compliance reasons. You do have to make sure that your members, I'm just seeing if I can accept now, that your internal staff make sure that unlocking becomes second nature. So I've unlocked that shift now and I can press accept and it will now let me through. So I've jumped through a lot of hoops. So now you'll see that that is going, the color has changed to be an orange book. And if I was to go and call and confirm to the client that I have, that this person is attending, so I'll just quickly go do that now, it will automatically change. So it is in live time. What I mean by that is if my app is sitting idle and I haven't opened it, and it's just been sitting there for 5 minutes, it won't update. So if we have a look, it's idle. But if I press this refresh icon, like so, it'll change. Or say I went to my availability and came back, it would also. So that is your My Shifts area. And again, we do have that supporting app guide that you'll be able to access and go through. With any further questions, you can send through to the implementation team or consultant. and we'll be able to answer that. The last, second last feature we have is released. So if we have a look at the release shift, it is that shifts that are matching that criteria of the member's profile will appear. So in this case, there is a key field of my profile not matching any of the release shifts in the system, or there's not that many release shifts in the system. What will happen if I do select this is it will provide a screen like so. I'm sorry for all of the arrows, I went super crazy here. But under here, it shows all of the release shifts, and it first splits them up by date. And then when you expand them, it shows you the details of the shift. And the key difference between, say, a assigned or a broadcast shift compared to a released is that they cannot decline. It is just that it's available, and if you want to take it, you take it. You don't say that you can't work it. So again, we have this app guide that has, all of these details around the specific features and the ins and outs, as well as some further details around the shift information. One of the key things, oh, my screen is paused. Well done. Oh, I'm just trying to think how far along. Yeah, okay. So the released shifts on my app. Thank you very much for that, Fiona or Evelyn there. Here it is that there's no shifts, and that is that there's a whole list of criteria, being that I have to be not restricted from those clients that have release shifts, that I can't have, like if my visa has expired, I won't be able to see those shifts. I must have that qualification. And there is also a setting that you can turn off or on around expertise. So I highly recommend, when first rolling out, not to have it set, but once you have all of your members updated with all of their expertise, and you've got your new applicants going through that process, then restricting it via expertise is quite handy. But jumping back into when we look at a release shift, and thank you again that I'd forgotten to reshare, happens to all of us. What we have here is the release shift area shows by date, and you have key information here. And then if you open up, say, one of those dates, it will display any shifts. So in this case, there's one shift here, but there's two shifts like here in this screen example. We have the distance calculation. The booking notes are available for release shifts as well. And there is an additional feature that you can have set, or you can not, for any clients that are using the finance, it's not available, which is the shift worth. So it will just show in a faded out color like this if it's not set to be available. But if it is, it'll highlight in a dark gray. So that is your release shifts. And then we also have the timesheet submission process. So if we have a look back at my app phone here and we go to timesheets, if there was any timesheets available here to be submitted, it would appear that I could submit those timesheets. Now, we actually do have a full guide on the timesheet submission process, so just bear with me. Timesheet. Now, depending on, all right. So I'm not sure if all of you are going to our digital timesheet option. I highly recommend it. It's a lifesaver. You don't have to fluff around with paperwork anymore. I'll just share my screen now. We actually have a whole timesheet guide again that you can access as a soft copy and edit it for your own company colors, etc. So the digital timesheet guide goes through the process. So here it is that you step one, you access the timesheet here, or if it is showing that you've got a timesheet to submit, it will be on your dashboard. And then two, it is that we go through when you select whatever shift you would like. You educate your members that if they are submitting a timesheet, that they are updating the details to match the time that they work. So what we do have is that they can control the start time and end time. They can change the shift type. Now, for those that are going to the finance, please know that there's other rules that control the shift type. So earlier when I was talking about the shift type from an allocations availability point, we have rules that say if someone's working between this time and this time, it needs to be a PM rate. So don't stress too much about that. We have the area, which is the delivery location. So if it is that they are working in a sub area or they moved from, most aged care homes use flowers, so they moved from the Gardenia suite to the Waratah suite. And we have the qualification. So the qualification isn't something that they can change. It's more just an information here, and they can update their expertise. Any hour break time, again, for finance users, they do have that you can set up default times, i.e. any shift over 5 hours gets a 15-minute or half an hour break. And then we have your worked hours in total. So in this case, I've got from 10:30 to 11, so it's only half an hour, so 30 minutes. And if they are making any changes to the original booking, they are required to add in notes, otherwise it's optional. So with the discrepancy notes, that does flow through to finance, and it is very helpful if it is that they finished 15 minutes later, they can put in that the covering nurse was 15 minutes late. So if your clients do come back and have any sort of complaint or anything like that, you've got that information on file as well. Then the next step is your travel distance. So the travel distance feature is optional. You can set it up for client locations that your members can log travel. And now that can be from client to client or from their home. There's some settings around that. And if not, it is something that just doesn't appear if it's not set up. But if you do have the travel distance, it does allow you to put in, I'll enter the distance from this date or from this address to this address, and any notes, and that flows through to finance for the team. So for those clients that don't have finance, unfortunately, that's not included as a feature. We then have your viewing of documents. So we have that you can add documents against a client location. That's very handy if you would like to do a site induction or an entry information booklet. If it's specifically related to that shift, we also have shift documents. So on the timesheet screen and on the shift, my shifts area as well, if there are locations, so if I just go back to my screen, no, sorry, it's timed out on me. If you go back to the My Shifts area, those icons are there as well. And it is that internally your staff can upload documentations per shift, as well as your members can upload documents as well. So an example could be that you wanted a care instruction that you needed to upload against a client for that day. You can upload that. And then your members, they might have that they had to purchase something while on shift, and they might be lodging a refund or reimbursement, sorry, and they can upload the proof. And for those that are using the finance, it does drive through and show it in at your finance, but also those that aren't, there is still the ability to access it via the allocation screen. The location documents, again, that's set up under the client profile. Those documents they don't change. It's just kind of like a set FYI. If you're wanting more of like an acknowledgement from a member, that's where the compliance feature comes in. The last step of this is that they can choose an authorized supervisor. So this step is still required. Now, depending on your system settings, you can have that your supervisor signature is mandatory at the time the member submits the timesheet, or that you share the access details to your clients and they on their professional app or the portal that they can like sign and approve those post. So it is global, so it's either one or the other. So most healthcare clients, if I'm being honest, will have that they sign at the time of timesheet submission, so then it's done. because normally there's always a supervisor there to sign. For any of those clients where there's not, you can just ask your members to put in, say, like a single dot, so you know that there was no signature of a supervisor. And then you can, send that to the client post shift. We then have jumping in here that the member does sign, and then the supervisor can review those details. So they are given a review screen where if they select it, highlights any changes in red, and they can open it up to see a detailed breakdown of that. So if they press that, what will happen is they'll get, the original and what was submitted, and then the breaks and any change in the total work hours, any of the notes the member did when they did their timesheet submission, and any client notes they can add for your internal team to see on the digital timesheet. So that's the approval process. Once they sign here, then it does go to the final screen where they can confirm the timesheet submission, and that is the process of submitting a timesheet. So that's pretty much the app in itself. There are further details of features available in the, under our more options menu. We do have a guide available for that, but I'm mindful of the time and of how much I've rattled on for nearly 2 hours. We have gone through quite a lot when we're looking at the system and everything that we did. When we do our next training, we'll ensure that there is an app available for you to access and download, and for you to start practicing these shifts. Now, you're more than welcome to use your own system for that. Your apps are ready to go. With that, all I recommend is if you are using or entering in shifts, please use test profiles and only use the real shifts or members against shifts that they have attended, so that you're updating the shift history, which is very handy for our been before data, which is something in system searches. And next training session we'll go through the app again, but actually get you actively using the app there. So I hope that has sort of answered all of your questions. I mean, well, not all of your questions, we've gotten through quite a lot. If you do have any questions, please write them down and we can cover them next session, or you can send them on to your implementation consultant. And in the next training session, we will not have or face as many technical issues. We'll make sure that that's all working as it should. So with that, I'm more than happy if you guys want to finish 10 minutes early. And if you do have any questions, like I said, we can action those after this training. Thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you, Simone.
Thank you.
Awesome. I'm glad we got through it. We will, as I said, there's a lot of information and details we'll share, all of the different fields available in the allocation screen, as well as the system searches. So that'll all be shared with you after our second training. And I hope everyone has a lovely, we're Tuesday? Yeah, Tuesday afternoon.